Hola y bienvenidos a otro episodio. I'm just kidding. Hello and welcome back to the Paddocks. This episode, we're going to be covering El Gran Premio de España, the Spanish Grand Prix, and all the updates you may have missed over the weekend. On this episode, we have Ito, Amy, Chelsea behind the scenes, and myself, Melissa. Now, let's get into the pre-race fun leading up to our favorite part of the week. Now, one of my favorite things that I saw take place over the week was that F1 had hosted a fan festival in the streets of Barcelona earlier in the week, and we saw Carlos drive his Ferrari in the streets and do some donuts. I love that. I would love to see a Ferrari taking over the streets of DC, just as Red Bull did. So, hello, F1, bring that over, please. I will be there, front row and center. Now, another favorite part of race weekend in general is when the drivers do special helmets. Carlos, of course, had one for his home race, and one that I actually kind of liked was Nico Hulkenberg's helmet in honor of the Euro Cup. For my non-football/soccer fans, it's a European soccer tournament in short. He pretty much had a special helmet honoring the German team, and his number was even in the same font as the national team's kit. Pretty cool, loved it. And Charles also had a special helmet to celebrate 16 million followers on Instagram.
Now, you know that I love a specialty lid. That's one of my favorite things. I'm like always the girl on the podcast who always brings up if someone does a specialty helmet. It's just my jam. But I kind of truly don't know how I feel about a specialty helmet for your follower count. But, pop off, Charles. 16 million is huge, especially when you're also racing under number 16. It is one to, celebrate. I get it. Just wasn't my favorite. I did love the fact that Carlos gave us a specialty lid. I was kind of hoping we were going to get one from Fernando, but I don't think I saw anything online of him doing a specialty helmet. And I was kind of disappointed because I was expecting at least something. I mean, it's his home GP. Give me the goods.
I mean, honestly, with Charles's helmet, is it weird? Yes. But at the same time, he's the driver with the second most fans on Instagram, followers. So why not flaunt it? And he's never going to reach Lewis's level, let's be real.
I do have to say, I was a little underwhelmed by Nico's specialty helmet. I don't know why, but it just kind of missed the mark for me personally. I am not a big football girl. European football just doesn't do it for me. But I understand why he wanted to do it. Support your team. I get it. But it just kind of felt out of place, I guess. I don't know. Now, I know this came out a few weeks ago, but I don't think anybody has mentioned Max's specialty orange tribute helmet that he did, that he's been wearing. He wore it this weekend. I know he is wearing it for the Austrian Grand Prix. I'm assuming he'll probably also wear it for Silverstone just because, but it's a really orange lid. It's for his fans. He's even got photos of the fans in the background of the design. It's a really, really cool lid. I feel like Max always does good helmets. There's some nice little chrome details in it. There's some reflective parts. It just looks really good when he was showing it in the video, at least. I'm really interested to see what it looks like more on track. But I feel like nobody really mentioned it. I almost didn't realize he did it until I saw it hit my feed again earlier this week. And I was like, oh, wait, I completely missed this, which is so unlike me because I'm normally like, oh, my God, specialty lid, screenshot, send to the group chat. But it missed my radar. Sorry, guys.
Honestly, Amy, thanks for the reminder. When I first saw the helmet this weekend, I was so confused because I didn't remember the announcement. And honestly, it's such a gorgeous lid. I was slightly disappointed that I forgot about it. I mean, I love a good orange lid. And I feel like it's not his usual, Dutch orange, which can be sometimes a bit in your face, especially with the Euros going on right now. And all the Dutch soccer fans being out in full force in that specific shade of orange.
Now, I have a little, in case you missed it, a news alert, if you will. Alpine announced a new executive advisor coming into this race weekend. And there's a pretty good chance that if you heard somebody screaming and didn't know where it was coming from, it was probably me, because they announced that it was Flavio Briatore. And he is supposed to help direct them on new talent, I guess. That's at least what we were told so far. They've kind of left his role a little on the vague side. I understand that he has a history with the team. He's brought them success. But I don't really know how you can look past his past. I mean, the man was hit with a lifetime ban for his role in the Crashgate saga. So, like, yes, I know FIA overturned it on an appeal in 2013, but, like, how do you glance past that? The math doesn't math for me, so I do apologize if you heard me freaking out over this, guys.
I mean, honestly, my first reaction to the news was F1 really said 2023 was boring, so we thought we bring Flavio back. It truly seems like the Y2K resurgence has hit F1 hard, because first we have Massa suing because of the 2008 championship, and now we have this. And also, this might be a bit niche to my family, but I told my mom about it, and her first reaction was, wait, Heidi Klum's baby daddy?
I've said it once and I'll say it again. The FIA is just going to FIA whenever they want. Simple as that. I don't have any other explanation for their executive decisions.
I mean, you are right, Mel. The FIA is going to do whatever they damn well please. They are the governing body, so, like, I mean, I guess, whatever. But a little bit more, I guess, breaking news, if you want to call it that. I'm pretty sure most people have seen this, but I found this out on Twitter, and it had my jaw quite literally on the floor. And that was the fact that McLaren had to evacuate their team hub paddock hospitality due to a fire alert that happened on Saturday morning. Everyone was evacuated safely, and the local fire brigade handled the issue, but still scary. I don't know if I've seen anything come out so far that explains why things were causing a fire alarm to go off, but scary nonetheless. Thankful that first responders took care of everything, and thankful that everybody got out very safe.
From what I heard, it had something to do with the electrical stuff, but I'm not 100% sure because I got it off Twitter, so take it with a grain of salt, especially because electrical fires can be very dangerous. But Lando in the post-quali press conference mentioned that a lot of teams offered to help, which was really cute, especially because they're competitors. Max then, of course, had to add that he could just use George's pass to get into Mercedes, as George lost his pass and Lando found it earlier that weekend. He just said he would have to match the shirtless aesthetic.
That may have been my favorite thing to ever hit F1 Instagram, if you want to call it that, of the fact that Lando was literally posting it for sale to the highest bidder. Like, I love that. 10 out of 10. I have no notes for you, sir. But we have another little announcement that came out leading into this weekend, and that was the fact that Sauber has said that they have alternative options to Carlos if he goes to a different team. Apparently, said options are Esteban Ocon and Pierre Gasly. I'm not really sure how I feel about that, but that's a whole different story. And then my last little tidbit of a news update leading into this weekend is the fact that 7 different teams brought upgrades, which is crazy. Some of them were large, massive, over-the-top upgrades. Some were much smaller. Some were not visible to the eye. But we pretty much had a whole new VCARB, RB, Visa, Cash App, buy one, get one, whatever you want to call it. James Vowles, thank you for that joke. It is just beautiful. But we had a lot of upgrades on the track this weekend, and that means that we now get to talk about everyone's kind of favorite stuff, which is more of the meat and potatoes of the weekend. So we're going to start and just gloss through free practice. I personally only watched FP1 and FP3, so I have nothing really to touch for FP2. But in FP1, we got Oliver Bierman and Haas after having done F2 in Spain this weekend as well. So, like, kudos to you, Ollie Bierman, for doing both, because that feels like that's really hard because those cars are just so different from an F1 car. So 10 out of 10, kid.
Honestly, I was so glad to see him back behind the wheel of an F1 car again, especially as he's been having a mixed season in F2. And that's just, after Jeddah, that is heartbreaking to see.
We also had a repeat of Ferrari having power issues, but this time it was Carlos's problem, not Charles. Ferrari, please, can we fix the whole power unit, power issues just in general? Thankfully, it was only in free practice, but still get it together. I also found it really interesting that Alpine is still having weight issues with their cars. They've said that they have a lightweight car, a lightweight chassis, and a heavier weight chassis. And I just don't understand what they've done with their development for their car. I just have so many questions for the Alpine team and like no answers.
I don't think anyone has any answers at this point with how many people left the team. Nothing surprises me anymore.
And I think an important thing to note is the fact that Max Verstappen took his final power unit for the season. And if he has to take another, that will be a penalty for him, which I think Checo has also taken his max allotment of power units for the season as well. So I'm kind of a little confused as to what Red Bull is doing because we're still really early into the season, but we're going to just see how this shakes out. I got this fun little fun fact from the F1 TV team, and that is the fact that we all know that Danny Rick likes to write things on the back of his helmet, on his body, whatever, to motivate himself. BDE, FEA, everybody knows them. They're iconic. Well, he recently added to the back of his current helmet, "Not without a fight." And I love that for him. Please put that on some merch, Daniel, because I will buy that so fast. But seems very fitting for the current energy that he's giving, because he's really not going down without a fight. And I love that for him. Now, as I said, I have no comments for FP2, nor do kind of the rest of us. We're going to just jump right into FP3, where things got a little spicy, shall we say. Lance was given a reprimand for his incident making contact with Lewis in FP3, and Charles as well was given given a reprimand for his incident in turn 7 with Lando. What was happening? I couldn't freaking tell you. Everyone was just being a little off in FP3. I am still wrapping my head around it, to be frank.
I personally don't know what Lance's deal was in that moment. I saw the replay, and to me, it honestly looks like it was done on purpose. But the PGP crew knows how I feel about Lance, and I'll leave that at that.
The way I feel like you know that a driver has messed up is when David Coulthard is making comments about it. And he literally, I have it quoted, said that drivers shouldn't be able to, quote, weaponize the car, and that it should have been a conversation outside of the car, which I 1000% agree with. But like, it just makes the alarm bells go off when DC is the one calling you out on your ish.
Amen. And honestly, my face was the same as Lando's after Max told him that Charles only got a reprimand about his incident. On both counts, honestly. And mind you, I'm a Charles girly until the day I die, so saying something negative about Charles doesn't come naturally to me.
Now, we're going to jump right into quali. And I just need to kind of start off by saying, thank you, F1 TV, for this adorable little footage. But pop off to the tiny human Ferrari fan with the camera. I need the team to like figure out who this fan is and get their hands on the photos, because I feel like they're going to be the coolest things, because I just feel like seeing Formula One from a younger fan's perspective is just so interesting. So I really want to personally see what those photos look like. I mean, I just really do. But I feel like I need to take a hot second for Esty Bestie and Pierre Gasly. Holy moly, Alpine boys were putting in work. I was flabbergasted. I think my neighbors may have heard me shriek. It's fine.
Team Battle the Baguette said, let's be peaceful and show them what we're made of. And they indeed did.
Honestly, what is in the Alpine this weekend? Seriously, especially after the aforementioned weight issue. Like, how do they do this?
Now, I know for a fact my neighbors definitely heard me scream when Lewis went from P14 to P1. I was not ready. I was simply unprepared for that moment. God, that was good to see. And that's coming from somebody who is not a Mercedes fan. And like, I like Lewis, but I'm not a big Hamilton fan.
Let's just all admit it's things we all love to see, and we're all just Lewis fans at the end of the day. It's really all just Lewis, not Mercedes.
I mean, my heart was just going. I could not explain to you how I felt when that happened.
And then we had Charles in second and Max in third. Like, I will take that. I loved that. I loved that top three. That was beautiful. But then again, with me freaking out, because both Saubers made it to Q2. Like, can I get a hell yeah? Because that was fantastic. I was so happy for the team.
And speaking about fantastic, Checo finally made it out Q1 after how many race weekends? Finally.
Girl, I think I lost count of how many times he hasn't made it past Q1. Sorry, Checo. I will say that hearing Yuki be so surprised that he didn't make it through to Q2 kind of like hurt my heart. I was actually surprised myself that he didn't make it to Q2, because I feel like he's consistently been doing that at minimum. But hearing his surprise was just, it made me stop for a hot sec.
It definitely felt like he forgot for a hot second that he was in a V-carb and not in a Red Bull or something else.
The thing that really, really broke my heart was Logan Sargent coming on the radio and saying, it's been a painful weekend. I'm trying my best. We'll keep pushing tomorrow. And I will say my favorite part of that whole entire radio message is the fact that his engineer said never give up, because I feel like you always hear Logan sounding upset, and you don't tend to get anybody on the team saying it's okay, just keep fighting, keep pushing, like you've got this. So that, for me at least as a Logan fan, was really nice to see.
And from Q1, we saw, as mentioned, Logan being knocked out along with Albon. A big ouch for Williams. Danny Rick and Yuki, again, ouch for V-Carb, and K-Mag.
And then in Q2, we kind of kicked it off with some good information from at least my favorite woman on the F1 TV team, or one of my favorite women on the F1 TV team, Queen Ruth Buscombe. She gave us some fun info, and that is the fact that Perez, Hamilton, and Piastri used 2 sets of soft tires in Q1, meaning that they were down a set of softs. Zhou, and Stroll used all 3 sets of soft tires and kept 2 sets of mediums for the race, which meant that they only had used sets for Q2. I just thought that was really interesting information. I love getting that data of who used how many tires, who was really kind of reserved in their usage, who went OTT. I just think it's super interesting. I will say I definitely booed at my television when Flavio Briatore popped up on my screen. I will forever and always be that man's number 1 hater. Sorry, not sorry.
Amy, you're literally like, if he has no haters, I'm dead. That's what it always reminds me of whenever I feel type of way about people. But watching Q2 and seeing the 2 neon green Sauber cars out on track was oddly satisfying. Love seeing them out there.
Oh no, having a friend who works on the Sauber team, I was elated to see those 2 bright green cars on the track for Q2. I was just so happy. It brought me so much serotonin. Thank you, steak. But then we had poor little Maxi stuck in pit lane traffic. He just looked like he was ready to start twiddling his thumbs for a split sec. I was just kind of like, oh, poor kid isn't used to getting stuck in pit lane traffic. And here he is.
The funny part to me about this whole thing was he isn't even allowed to try to go around anymore like he did a lot of times last season.
My favorite part of that whole traffic incident was just the McLaren. I forgot who it was, but they just said, I'll just squeeze by here. Thank you very much.
Oh my God, it was a McLaren sandwich with, I still don't know which Ferrari was stuck in the middle of that, but it was a McLaren sandwich and it just kind of made me laugh. I can't lie.
And Lewis was cooking and went second at one point during this session. Like literally, I was just like, please do not give me hope. I hate getting my hopes up and it doesn't go through. I think we can all relate.
So relatable, especially because you think Barcelona would have some bad juju for him after 2016 when Max became the youngest race winner in F1 history. But I guess not. Or at the very least, he has a very good witch on speed dial.
And again, Alpine, hello? Where was the speed coming from?
Seriously, cooking. I was the definition of unwell. Where has this been, Alpine? We've been waiting. Like, I'm happy it's finally showing up, but like, I need some more consistency from them before I'm like, ooh, yeah, I can kind of start to like maybe kind of back them a teeny tiny little bit. Right now, I'm just like, no, you are a joke. Get your shit together, please. Thank you.
And out of this session, we saw Zhou, Stroll, Hulkenberg, Bottas, and one of the hometown heroes, Fernando, out. Seeing Fernando getting knocked out at his own home race hurt on a whole different level. And I can just imagine how the fans felt too.
I felt so bad for Fernando. It was so close. Like, I actually thought he was going to be fine, and then he wasn't. And my heart just broke for him. But we got to keep plugging along because quali doesn't stop till Q3's done. And we had Oscar getting hit with a track limits time-lapse deletion. Thankfully, he had 6 minutes left in the session, but like 5 minutes to go in the session, everybody, including Oscar, was in the pits. Like, okay, guys, I was stressing going, is Oscar going to actually set a lap here? Like, I got real anxious that he was just going to like take P10. I was like, no, he's got pace. Let him go. Let him cook. But F1 just likes to give me mild heart palpitations. It's fine.
Yeah, seeing all that action in the pits always reminds me of the scene in SpongeBob where like they're in the office in his brain and it's on fire and all the little mini SpongeBobs are just going crazy. But speaking of going crazy, George, your comments, they're driving me crazy.
It's fine. We'll talk about it later. Oh my God, to be a fly on the wall in that debrief. Like, methinks that pole position went to Princess Georgie's head a little bit. Like, the definition of frosty. I mean, we understand that he is sassy, but good God, that was just not something I had coming.
It honestly feels like he's so ready for Lewis to leave as Lewis is ready to leave.
And I'm not going to lie, I'm ready for Lewis to leave so he can join my team, if we're being honest. But anyways, another moment that costed another driver, Oscar, and that understeer, like it, that one hot second really costed him like a nice lap time, and I was really sad for him.
The way I winced when he slid, I was just like, it hurt. It hurt so much because I want to see him just absolutely kick butt and take names. But at least one of the McLarens was kicking butt and taking names because Lando frickin' Norris had me on the floor. My neighbors, my whole dang street definitely heard me screaming because what was that?
Bestie, Chris and I were taking part in that screaming with you. His mom later on asked me why we were screaming at the TV, and I had to explain to her about the quali session. But what a lap, what a moment.
It was insane. Enough said.
And your top 10 for the weekend. Lando on pole, followed by Max locking out the front row, Lewis in P3, followed by George, Charles, Carlos, Pierre, Checo, Esteban, and Oscar.
I do have to say, I was elated with the results for Alpine. Quali looked great for them. But I will quite literally put money on George being feisty about the fact that Lewis did better than him because it feels like that's on brand for George. And I know I am not the only person who was giggling at the amount of bleeps that had to happen to Lando's radio message. I mean, I understand it. He's like a kid in his 20s. Expletives are going to fly. But like, I just was giggling away.
Same. I love when those radio messages are not censored and you just hear the commentators like, sorry about the language. It's like, what to be sorry about? Like, it's hilarious. But anyways, now to the meat and bones of this episode, the race. And ahead of the race, some stuff happened. Alex received a power unit upgrade, so he started from the pit lane instead of P19.
I do just want to add that he changed his power unit components without approval from the FIA technical delegate, which is why he had to start from the pit lane. Yeah, I don't know why he had to do it, but he did.
Honestly, he had to do it because it was a huge no-no. You do not replace stuff without approval. And honestly, I'm surprised that he got to start at all. At the same time, these days there are only 20 cars, so they're much more lenient in my eyes who gets to start and who doesn't get to start.
And of course, in typical Williams luck, Logan received a 3-grid place penalty because of his impeding with Lance, but there wasn't any change in his grid position as he originally was in P20, leaving him in P20. But he started in P19 with Alex, starting from the pit lane. But now getting to the race, what a start. Can we talk about that start, guys?
George William Russell, did you eat a bowl of pixie dust or something? Like, where the heck did that come from? I was not ready. I woke up probably 10 minutes before the race started. That overtake had me wide awake after that one. Oh my God.
Honestly, overtakes like these are why I'm glad we get start replays, because George just came out of nowhere. Like, I saw on the side that he overtook Lewis and then all of a sudden he was P1. I was like, I didn't even see the other overtake happen. Like, how?
No, for real, because that was honestly a work of art in that first corner. And we all know a lot of drama can happen in the first corner. But besties, the scream I scrumped in that moment, it was just wild.
Like, I did not have a double overtake in the first 600 meters of the race on my bingo card. My jaw was on the floor. I think we have a new submission for the definition of full send because wow. But I cannot be the only one who held their breath when Max was overtaking George, because we all know that those two do not play nice all the time. So I was a little worried that it was going to go horribly awry.
Amen. Because them not playing nicely is the understatement of the year. We all remember last year, Baku specifically.
And like Amy, I definitely was holding my breath in that second because, yeah, we know how those two are. And when GP was over the radio, like, it is time, Max was just like, send it. And send it indeed, he did.
And honestly, me and the F1 TV commentators were all very much shook how they didn't touch during that overtake. Like, what?
We also got a notification for Lando forcing Max off at the start, though there was no further action for that. I don't really think you could call it forcing off the track, but like, okay, he got a little bit on the grass. Like, it wasn't that bad. We've definitely seen worse. We also had a little issue with Charles and Carlos. Like, Charles, my guy, do you really think that he's going to play nice during his home race? He helped you get the home race win for Monaco. I feel like it's kind of time to return the favor just a little bit. I don't really fully understand where Charles' tood was coming from, but it was there.
Now, to be fair, Charles has helped Carlos win or get some podium finishes, but I do have to agree. But again, the Ferraris are always just fighting with one another when it comes to race day for whatever reason. It's kind of funny to watch because it's just like, come on, you guys are going to end up costing the team points.
I swear that the Ferrari boys may have failed preschool because they cannot play well with others sometimes, nor can they share well with others. So, like, yeah, they pretty sure they failed preschool.
They might have failed preschool, but honestly, who wouldn't bitch if your teammate went off track, gained a place, and the stewards were like, this is okay, when in the past they said that it wasn't.
And this seems to be a new thing that I've noticed the last few races, and that is just unhinged George, because he got asked by his engineer his pushing level, and his response was more than the others. George William Russell. I really can't with you. Sometimes I really cannot stand him, and sometimes he just makes me laugh.
I honestly chuckled when he said that because of his like little like British posh voice. It's like, it's unintentionally funny.
And I mean, he was kind of pushing because he created a DRS train behind him, which is very unusual for the front of the grid. Like, you don't usually see that behind P3.
And with more things being noted during the race, K-Mag, our boy, being noted for a false start. And it leaves us to wonder if that will lead to anything in particular.
Honestly, with K-Mag's luck, it will be penalty points, aka a race ban.
I've said it before, and I will say it again, and I will probably say it again. Kevin Magnussen is absolutely angling for a race ban, because why not? Like, just do it for the plot, my guy. Then there we had a little casual slide in turn 7 for Max at, like, I think it was lap 13. I just made my heart stop for a hot sec. I was fine after, but, like, we didn't have too much crazy, like, someone going off too bad or anybody really losing the back end. Like, any little moment just made me go, oh crap, what's gonna happen now?
Yeah, that was definitely something. But on the other hand, I love how Alex was moving up from starting in the pit lane up to P12 by lap 14. Like, kudos to you, my guy.
And then we saw a 5-second penalty for Kevin Magnussen for his false start. The man is just chaos. Kevin's going to do what Kevin's going to do at this point. That's kind of all I can think of. Alpine was doing so very well, and then decided to pull out a 6.7 second pit stop for Pierre when he came in on lap 15. Why? They've never had a pit stop that bad before. That's normally Steak's job. Okay.
If we're being honest, guys, it's normally Mercedes or Ferrari's job with the slow pit stops. But literally, it happened just when we started to think things are starting to look up for Alpine. So it kind of like, sucks seeing that. But can we talk about George and Carlos pretty much racing in the pits? Because that release from Ferrari had me worried. I was just like, oh my God, please don't happen. Because knowing them, it would not be pretty either.
That also made me real anxious, Mel. You are definitely not the only one. We got a very sassy Lando Norris where he just told his engineer to basically, no, you're wrong. I think we just need to go get Max. Yeah, okay. Have fun. Go do that. And then we had Lewis just with a gorgeous overtake. I love seeing him get to be racy and get to like do the things that he loves to do and that he is really good at. I don't know where all of this performance suddenly kind of came from with Mercedes, but I'm going to keep those thoughts to myself for now.
Lewis is just giving us what the people want. That's all. And of course, Carlos's radio had me kind of giggle because it did look like they got close during that overtake, but I swear they didn't touch. But I'm not a driver and I'm not in the car, so what do I know at the end of the day?
They touched ever so slightly from what I saw, but in my honest opinion, that is what makes racing exciting. I wonder whether race control will do anything about it, as Carlos wants them to do something. They noted it for now, but I predict nothing's going to happen because it's very much just old school racing.
I don't know if this was intentional or not, but Mercedes seemed like they were just trying to piss George off for a hot sec because they stuck this man with a 5.3 second pit stop. Just yikes, guys. Just yikes. That's really all I've got.
All I will say is Mercedes is really fighting those sabotaging Lewis rumors and showing for it.
And then we have Carlos Sainz also being very sassy. I mean, it's his home race. He is spicy. Like, the chilly nickname fits of saying, I don't understand why there's a rule book if we don't follow it. I mean, as a book girly, I understand it. Why have a book of rules if someone's not going to read it and follow them? But these are open radio channels, my guy. Did you really want to say that out loud?
I just love how he's such a rule book guy, and it doesn't surprise me that he is because he looks like it kind of, but it's just always so funny.
And then around lap 28, I looked at the timing sheet and I see that Max has a 6.4-ish second lead from George. And I just kind of had to shake my head because sometimes it looks like Red Bull is losing some of the pace that they have on everybody else on the grid. And then we have moments like that where I'm like, oh, wait, nope, it's still very much so there. There are some teams that are catching up, but that lead is still something that they can pull out if they have to.
Max is just in the league of his own, and it's just insane just to keep on seeing that and saying that because, I mean, you got to appreciate it at the end of the day.
And then we have Lando and Charles's delayed pit stops, which honestly, at that point in the race, I don't think they were working out, but maybe Lando is working out because that overtaking battle with George, no words, no notes.
And halfway through the race, we have Max in P1, not surprising, and followed by George in P2 and Lando in P3. And all I have to say is, Lando, sir, you were cooking halfway down this race. Amazing.
Lando was really on one this weekend. I personally feel like Barcelona gave us some really good battles this weekend. That might just be me, but I was loving this race midway through.
Lando really meant business when he mentioned getting Max over the radio, and I love seeing that when they're like, okay, yeah, I'm going to get him, and we're going to do it.
And McLaren really kind of came through because around lap 45, Lando had like an 11.35 second lead to Charles, which is just crazy when you think about it, because I feel like we have not seen McLaren have that kind of pace to another car, at least not that I've personally noticed. It had me stop and go, holy crap. But they were definitely on one.
And of course, more penalties came up. And in this time, it was Nico Hulkenberg who got a 5-second penalty.
Apparently, Nico was speeding in the pit lane. I don't think we caught it. I don't remember seeing Nico's pit stop, so I don't know. Maybe he did speed in the pit lane, but I mean, okay, there's your 5 seconds, my guy.
And Lando's 3.6 second pit stop was rough to watch, especially like how good he was doing in this race. And I felt like this could affect the outcome, but more on that in a little bit. But again, another 5-second penalty for Yuki. I literally was just like, I am confusion at this moment.
Yet another driver who was supposedly speeding in the pit lane. I don't know why everybody was deciding that this was the race to speed in the pit lane, because it felt like that was the most common penalty we saw.
They just all felt like imitating rookie Seb at this point.
Truly. And honestly, it makes sense because I don't know about you guys, but I just see the little like thing that comes up at the top of the screen and no one explains anything, or I may miss it knowing me, but I'm just like, why is this going on? So it's always nice to know what happened afterwards.
The Mercedes boys are so fighting right now, and I'm not okay. I just really hope that everything kind of ends the way they want it to with the team, the drivers, the everything. I was honestly kind of worried about how this race was going to end, because good Lord, the boys are just fighting and fighting bad.
Lewis, all I ask of you, just please, please hang on to that P3. I beg of you.
By lap 53, we had both Alpines in the points, and I literally looked at my screen, and the first thing that popped into my head is the TikTok audio of what is going on in the House of Commons, because what is going on in Alpine? Maybe I'm wrong, and Flavio Briatore is actually maybe bringing something good to the team, because he's here for a weekend, and all of a sudden, both cars are in the points. I don't know. I kind of hope that's not the case, and I just hope that it's the work they've been doing finally showing up. But we're going to find out.
You know they were showing out for the new executive advisor. I mean, it only makes sense. You would think they would have showed out in Miami when all the little, I don't know what they're called, the little athletes that came through. They're not little.
They're investors. They're
investors came through. You would have thought they would have showed out for them as well, because hello, they're putting in money for the team, but clearly they didn't. But now they did, so it's okay.
The F1 commentators mentioning Alpine and speed, even if it is fading speed, I never thought I'd hear it this season when it all started in Bahrain. But I'm kind of happy to see it, honestly.
I am officially starting a petition that I need David Coulthard to write a book of F1 phrases, because he came out with the go faster switch, and I just love it. Granted, it sounds so much better when he says it, but like, I just need a book of like funny F1 phrases that he likes to use, because he just keeps coming out with them, and I feel like it would make a fantastic coffee table book. That was my random mid-race thought. Sorry, not sorry. We are where we are. I feel like literally everybody this race was getting dinged for speeding in the pit lane. what was going on? There's a speed limit. It's not like it's just changed. It's always been this speed. They know they need to slow down. I just don't understand, guys.
I mean, the drivers do have places that they have to be. So it kind of makes sense why they were speeding the way they were.
Melissa and I were working on our notes at the exact same time, and I saw her type this in, and the first thing that my brain thought was things to do and people to see, because really those boys do have places to be, and us PGP girls really do share a damn brain cell sometimes. It's fine.
Our singular shared brain cell was working overtime over the weekend, if we're being honest.
And then we have Alexander Albon, who made me gasp when he pulled off this really nice save when he went off into the gravel. He also was a little sassy during the race. I don't know what the heck that was about, but it's just fine. Alex is finding some tude. I'm here for it. Sometimes I think he's too nice, but that save was just gorgeous, and I think reminds people that like Alexander Albon really does know how to handle a car.
Honestly, he's finding his bite, and I'm here for it. That boy just needs to fight someone, anyone at this point.
Now, can we talk about that last lap between Charles and George? Because literally I was just like, come on, Charles, just overtake him. Just like get a little bit faster. But it was so close up until the finish line.
I mean, you know it's close when Max is only winning by 2.2 seconds from Lando in P2, and then we had Lewis rounding us out in P3. I think all of LH44 was losing their minds collectively. I think most F1 fans are probably losing their minds collectively because it's been a while since we've seen Lewis Hamilton on a podium, y'all.
And it was his first podium finish of the season. Literal happy tears.
And then Lando Norris clinched both fastest lap and driver of the day. Some people will call it a popularity contest. Others won't. I don't think it is. I think everybody does it based off of what they see in the race. But that's just my own personal opinion.
I mean, it is well deserved. He did have one hell of a drive today. I don't really care. I vote sometimes and sometimes I don't. So whoever gets it on that race day, it is what it is, and I can't complain. But I think my favorite part of the podium, top three podium like finishers, whatever the term is, I can't think right now, was Lewis's motivational radios. Like, he's so appreciative towards the team and everything. I'm like, I just need you like over my shoulder whenever I'm like, I don't want to do something. For you, just give me that little extra push to do whatever I need to do.
I know I am not the only person who missed hearing Peter Boddington say, "Get in there, Lewis," because it's been a while since we've heard that. And I don't think I realized how much I needed that little catchphrase until I heard him say it.
And you know, at PGP, we love our fun facts. And this is the second year in a row where this race in particular is complete with no racing incidents.
Additionally, in 2022, Max took the championship lead at Barcelona, and he's never lost it since 2022. Picture this. And also, on the Lewis front, he's very close to 200 podiums. He can likely do it this year if he keeps this up, honestly.
And another favorite part of the end of the race stuff that we see was George going to hug Lewis on the podium finish. I was kind of surprised, to be honest, but I do love when teammates are supportive like that. Like, it's just like, okay, like at the end of the day, it's a points finish for the team. It's who they work for. So, love that.
I loved David Coulthard's little intro for Lewis for the post-race interviews. It just warmed my heart. I also want to add a little tidbit on to Ito's comment that Lewis could make 200 podiums. He's currently, after today, at 198, so he only needs 2 more. So that is very doable with the rest of the season going on. So we'll see what happens. I'm going to manifest that for him personally.
And of course, I know we all love it, but I love the cool down commentaries. They always make me giggle because it really shows how much the drivers miss of what goes on during the race, especially when they're in the front of the pack. Like their reactions and like what they say, hilarious.
I personally love the Max Verstappen podcast because it was back, ladies and gents, with an LN4 as a returning favorite. Definitely a fan favorite for the PGP girls. And it's been a bit since we've seen Lewis Hamilton on the Max Verstappen podcast. So it was really nice to have it. I really do love their reactions, their feedback, just seeing how they all interact together. It's just always fun.
Now, of course, we all love our champagne showers, but it was hilarious to watch Max and Lando attack Lewis with the champagne. Like, they literally said, hey, he's back, and let's just get you soaked, which I can imagine it sucks being sticky afterwards.
See, the thing for me was the way that it was like Lewis was off to the side in his own little world, kind of, and the two of them just made a beeline for him after a few seconds. It just had me giggling. I thought it was really cute, but definitely agree with you, Melissa. I would despise being sticky after a podium. And I'm sure they have like no time where they've got to go right into interviews. So they're just like stuck in a champagne-soaked race suit. That's just miserable if you ask me.
Honestly, for everyone's sake, especially theirs, I do hope they get to have a quick, even if it's 30-second shower, but that's probably not the case. But honestly, it was hilarious to watch, and also a good showing of the fact that it's not all that serious at the end of the day. Like, come on. You wouldn't spray your enemy, like arch enemy, with champagne the way you do if that was the case.
Now, I have to say, if you ask me, this race was a 10 out of 10. I feel like Barcelona just gave us a lot going on. I don't know. I really liked it. We had different people leading the races. We had people having penalties. I just feel like it was a really good race all around.
Agreed, bestie. I love seeing how the pit stops and the tire strategies come into play. I sometimes don't understand it, but it's kind of exciting to see if they put on the wrong tire type on the car and it's like, oh, yeah, didn't come out as the way we thought it would. But going into the Drivers' Championship, there has been some changes, and one being is that Lando's now in P2. Just 2 points ahead of Charles, who obviously is now in P3. I do hope Charles does get that back, but I wouldn't be upset at Lando being in that top 3 as well. But I really love how the championship battle is playing out this season. I feel like it's just been a lot more exciting compared to the recent years.
And honestly, while it does break my heart a bit as a Charles girly, it is definitely a better battle than it was last year, at least from P2 down.
Now, while we could talk about this race till we're blue in the face, I feel like we need to jump into at least one of my favorite parts of a race recap episode, and that is predictions for the next race. I, as always, pulled out my pendulum to predict one of my personal favorite races on the calendar, which is Austria and the Red Bull Ring. Now, some people probably won't be surprised with what I got for my first one, but P1, Max Verstappen, it's Red Bull's home race. Obviously, Max and the team, that's their goal. Get him in first, keep him in first, no issues. I won't complain to see it. I know a lot of people want some more variety, but hey, if he deserves it, he deserves it. P2, we have Carlos Sainz. Again, another person on a podium that I will never, ever complain about. My P3 is my personal favorite. I really would love to see it happen. Oscar Piastri. absolutely 120% obsessed with the idea of this. I feel like we're due for another Oscar podium, so maybe it will be Austria. Who knows? But I, for one, am so excited to get back to the Red Bull Ring.
The Red Bull Ring is such a fun race to watch, and I'm actually bummed I won't be watching it. But as for my predictions, I can see Max winning it because, well, again, it's a Red Bull car and the Red Bull wing. It makes sense, right? As for P2 and P3, in no particular order, I would like to see Checo finish on the podium. And like Amy mentioned, Oscar to finish out the top three. Again, no particular order for those two. I just feel like Checo needs his redemption, and why not at his track? So Checo, if you're listening, make it out of Q1 for the love of God, please. I'm begging you. But I would just like to see Oscar on the podium. That boy McLaren in general have been cooking with grease, and I have a soft spot for Oscar, so would love to see it.
Okay, magic dice time. For the top three, we have Danny, Max, and Checo. I think in terms of who's on the podium, we get a 33 to 66% success rate. All depends on how Checo does. But let's be real. As much as I would love to see Danny on the podium, let alone a win, let's remember, he's in a V-carb. As for Checo in the top three, as Mel said, he needs his redemption arc, especially after getting that extension. And honestly, Max, I'm not even gonna talk about. Feels like he's a done deal at this point. And also, quick reminder, it's a sprint race weekend next weekend. So the chaos is gonna be chaosing.
And to close out our episode, we have a driver of the week. It's got to be Lando Norris, maybe with an honorable mention to Lewis Hamilton because they both had fantastic weekends, but Lando was absolutely smashing it. That is a full stop. That's a wrap on Spain for us. Thank you so much for joining us in the paddock. Let us know your favorite moments of the race on our socials. Everywhere we are Paddock Girls Podcast, except for Twitter or X, where we are Paddock Girls Pod. We will see you at the next race. Thank you.